Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming back to my channel. My name is Candace St. James. Thanks for coming back. And in this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and do the second part of the 4th of July challenge, and I'm going to make the top today. This is the top that I have made, and it has bat wings and everything, and it's just a really cute dance costume. And I'm going to show you how we do it. And so I use a mannequin basically for mine, and for natural born males that we use mannequins, we use our boy measurements and our girl measurements in certain areas, and so we have to conform certain things to make our drag outfits, as well as if you're just a natural born female, we just use your natural measurements. But with drag, with natural born males, we have to kind of combine a little bit of both, because sometimes women are shorter, you know, in their chest area than men are, and so we have to kind of like lower that down or make accommodations for that. So we're gonna go ahead and show you how I do this. And so 3, 2, 1, let's get fabulous! But before we get started, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to click the bell button at the bottom of the screen. And I'm just super excited, guys. And I didn't include the draping part of this, but I did go ahead and show you how I kind of got the thing. So if you want to see how I do the draping part, go ahead and leave a comment down in the comment section below. I'm not really super comfortable with it, but I can definitely show you what I do know. Thank you guys so much for coming back to my channel and learning how to make this top. We look so freaking good right now. So to begin, we're gonna go and take this red sequiny fabric, and I'm gonna transfer everything with a pen onto my fabric. I've already added a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So with the black marker that I'm using, I'm gonna mark the spots where I have my gathers at the midriff section and of the pattern, and so that way I know that when I have gathers, it's gonna actually match up to the whole thing. And then you just clearly remove. I added a 1/2 inch seam allowance to this. I don't know if I said that before, but we start taking out the pins. And so when you drape fabric, you're gonna have to add in your seam allowance later. I just didn't, so I'm giving myself a 1/2 inch before when I cut my fabric out. So you just take out all the pins, and then you're gonna start joining your two right sides together. And basically what that means is the part with all the print, the part with all the sequins that are showing, you want that to show, and so that's the right side. The wrong side is considered the back of that piece of fabric. As you can see right here, I'm transferring everything to the pattern that I would normally. I'm going to be marking the spaces for gathers. I'm going to be going in and basically marking whatever I need to go mark on the pattern, so it's going to all translate. On the center back, on the back piece, you're not going to have gathers, but on the front you will, and those are going to create your bosoms. That's what's going to give you some dimension on your outfit. When you do gathers, it's actually very difficult because, well, it's easy for some people, but then I'm not super experienced with gathers, so I actually am learning how to do it. So basically, the areas where I marked on my pattern, it's about 3 inches on each side of my piece. What I do is I just sew in between those lines. I basically sew 2 lines at my widest stretch. It's a 5.0 on my machine, and you just sew the first line just right below the seam allowance, and then you sew a second one right above that on your seam allowance, and then you pull the strings, and then they gather up. And then what you do is you sew another line in between all that, and they become a permanent thing. If you would like to see me in depth on gathering fabric, please leave a comment in the comments down below, and I will totally go ahead and show that in another tutorial. So as you can see, I'm totally just I'm right now sifting through the gathered fabric that I have, and I'm making it basically I'm making it synonymous to the other side. I'm trying to make them as even as possible, and I just sew the 2 lines, and then I sew a line in the middle to make it permanent, and I can take the other stitches out. That is the easiest way you can do gathers on a fabric. You can also use a different sewing foot that you have to go, and it's not normally included in this actual sewing machine box, but you can go ahead and go buy it at like your local sewing store. Please do not mind me as I'm sitting here just gathering just the 2-3 inch areas of gathers. It's going to go and combine into 1.5 inches. So I'm going to continue playing with this, and I'm going to go ahead and when we come back, I will have it completely gathered up. And we're only going to just do those 2 sections because that's just going to give us bosoms. That's all we're looking for. So now that we got our boobicles pretty much sewn in, we are now going to combine both sparkly sides, both right sides together, and we're going to actually start sewing the top of the sleeve that leads into the neckline. We don't have to worry about sewing the neckline because we're going to go ahead and bind it later, but I will not show that. I'll do it off camera. But you just go ahead and you sew the top part of the sleeve, and then we're going to start later on doing the same thing to the other one. And we're just going to sew a straight stitch line. And just make sure you're locking your stitches at the very beginning and at the very end to lock in your work. To be honest, using this kind of fabric is actually giving me a breather from all the stretchy fabric that I do use, because my sewing machine does not like stretchy fabric. So using a sequin fabric most of the time will actually go ahead and work really well for my machine. And then this one, you don't have to really take out the sequins either. These are just embedded and they're just kind of like glued on. I don't know how they're really made, but they're just kind of glued on, and it's in the actual fabric. And so we don't have to worry so much about needles breaking or nothing like that. So just continue to go ahead and do the same thing that you did on the right side to the left side, and you're just sewing a basic stitch at a 2.5 length, or the average length that it comes in, and just go ahead and just sew a straight line, and that's all you got to do, locking your stitches. And then after that, remove your pins, and then we're going to do the underside. So now what we're doing is we're just pinning the underside of the sleeve, and that's just the sleeve that attaches, that's just the bottom of the sleeve that attaches to the waistline. And so now that our fabric is gathered, now it's going to match just like a glove. And so we're just going to go ahead and do another straight stitch at a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and that is what we're doing. And basically, seam allowance means that we're going to go in and sew a line a half inch away from the end of the fabric, and that's going to actually make our full garment, basically, if you follow that seam allowance. When you get into sewing, they do talk a lot about seam allowance. You have some that are 1/4, some that are 1/8, some that are 5/8. You can go any amount of seam allowance you want. It's just the amount of waist that you're gonna have, but you can do whatever you want to do. So now we're just gonna sew a straight stitch, your average length, and you're gonna make sure you want to lock your stitches in place as well as this one, because under the arms is where you provide the most tension, as well as the top. And so this will, you don't gotta worry about this as much as you would like pants, but like definitely you want to go, this is gonna be flowy, this is gonna be waving around the air, and so it's gonna have some kind of tension. So now we're moving on to the waistline. So we're just gonna do everything 1/2 inch seam allowance. And what we're doing here is we're going to turn the garment into on both sides to the point where the right side is facing each other. And so we're using a Star Spangled Banner blue fabric and with a red sequin top. And so we are going to put the stars, making sure that they kiss the actual sequins, and we just sew around, we pin and we sew all around the waistline, and that's the basic way to connect the waistline and the midriff together. Please, in this step, if you are new to sewing, please go ahead and make sure that when you do sew, that your surface is always flat. When a lot of new sewers tend to sew, they don't realize that, and sometimes you get your edges sewed together. You get whatever fabric is underneath. That's not, if there's a rift, if there's a ruffle, sometimes that gets sewn in, and so you're going to be doing a lot of plucking and seam ripping. And a lot of the times something can go wrong, and if it's detrimental, it'll show. And so you don't want to be doing you don't want to be sewing a whole lot of loose ends together, a whole lot of ruffles together in your outfits, or else it's going to really show, and it's going to show up in your fabric, because eventually your fabric's going to have holes. So, food for thought. when you're new to sewing, a big thing is that you want to just breeze right through it. Sewing takes time, and so make sure that whenever you're doing a waistline or whenever you're doing these things, a good piece of advice is just to go nice and slow at whatever speed that you want. Some machines can go up to 1,000,000 stitches a minute, and you want to just go at the pace where you can control your fabric. You can also control your hand and everything that you're doing. So make sure you just go nice and slow, and make sure you try to get as straight of a line as you possibly can. With this waistband, because we are using that stretchy fabric though, we don't have to do a zigzag stitch on this end because we're not really looking for stretch. That's what zigzags do, and they also prevent fraying. So we don't necessarily have to worry about that, but whenever you go onto seams as well, make sure you're going very slow because sometimes your machine will try to jam up right on those seams, and that's not something you want to go do. See, now we're coming up to a seam. We just go nice and slow around it because that's where you tend to lose a lot of control. A lot of people who do so, they go ahead and they tend to want to go super fast and all that. I use quilting pins to hold them in place, but if you hit a pin, you can go ahead and get derailed for a little bit, but you have to just kind of guide it back in place. So now I'm just removing the pins, and so this is what the finished garment kind of looks like. Now I'm just trying to figure out what to do with it now, because I have to hem basically the neckline, and I have to hem the bottom, mid-drift, and the sleeves now. At this time, you're really pretty much done with the garment except for the basic hemming. So you want to go ahead and just look at it. You want to go ahead and be proud of it, and just even model it if you want to, just to see what you need to go do, if you need to go do anything else. But this is how you basically do it. And this is the finished look, but it's not completely done because I did not go ahead and do the hems yet. This is just what I'm showing you is what we sewed right now. And I'm actually very proud of it. I actually ended up doing a binding and basic hem on the sleeves, and you can do so much stuff with this. You can do an applique, you can do whatever you want to go do. You are the designer and you make your own outfits how you want it to go, how you want it to be. You can do appliques, you could do feathers, you could do patches, you can make your own patches, you can do all kinds of sorts of things. You can do a waistband, you can do whatever you want to go ahead and do. You can do inserts, whatever you want to do, just let your little heart desire. You can put stripes down the middle of the sleeves if you wanted to. It's whatever you would like to do. This is how you make a basic dance costume. I actually decided to go ahead and, in the tutorial, didn't really show you how I did this binding, but I ended it with a binding with a hem. You can do whatever. You could add on extra sleeves if you want to make it look super scalloped, super ruffly. You could do whatever you want. You can add an attachment to this. You can add some kind of applique to this. You could do whatever you want. And so that's where designers kind of come in, and that's where we kind of just do our thing. And that's where you become, in this drag segment, is you become the designer of your own outfits. And so I decided to go ahead and kind of keep it simple and just put some 4th of July binding around it. It's the same fabric I use for my pants and for the bottom part of my top. And so thank you guys so much for coming back. And if you guys really enjoy these tutorials, leave a comment in the section below, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and tell all your friends about me. I'm super excited. I cannot wait till the next tutorial comes out, and so the next tutorial is going to be something pretty soon, what we're going to be seeing, and so I'm just super excited about it, guys. And so just keep on watching. Thank you so much, guys, for taking your time to watch this.